This was a full post here. Let's see if I can push that up a little bit. That doesn't really make it any bigger. Hang on. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. Okay, so here's what Tate was saying. And this is what I had to sort of like answer the father Catholic guy about. Monogamy is not natural for men. Okay, so I want to point out that this is not the kind of language that Tate uses, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Monogamy is not natural for men. Now, anytime somebody uses the term natural, it's the naturalistic fallacy. Okay. Anything natural is naturally good. Anything not natural is bad. Not necessarily. Okay. That's the naturalistic fallacy. But this has been thrown my way so many times. I can't even remember how many times I had to feel this. Like, Rollo, what do you think is more natural, monogamy or promiscuity or polygamy, whatever, right? And my answer to that is both. Both can be true at the same time. Well, both can be true within the same species. Let's put it that way. Because monogamy benefits human beings, and promiscuity also benefits human beings. Just depends on what your perspective happens to be. If it's Andrew Tate, then maybe polygamy, polygyny, whatever you want to call it, benefits you more. So let me move on here. Where'd it go? Andrew Tate. Okay. Statistically, only 20 to 30% of men have ever reproduced. Well, 80 to 90% of women have reproduced. Okay. So what he's doing is he's drawing this from a particular study. And I'm going to show you what that study is. And the reason why he's pulling this up, and it sounds like he's pulling it out of his ass, is because he basically is. But it's not Andrew Tate that's doing this. This is his PR team that's trying to make a viral tweet to do some engagement farming. That's really all it comes down to. And there is a PS magazine, I should say, Pacific Standard, the blog magazine, back in, when was this? March of 2015 of all places. This is where this is derived from, and I'll show it to you here. It's a report that's, because we've plotted the human genome, this is where he's kind of getting this from. But let me I'm going to share this tab here. Okay, so this is where I actually have used this before. 8,000 years ago, 17 women reproduced for every one man. It's actually worse than 20 to 30%, Tate. So this is an analysis of modern DNA uncovers a rough dating scene after the advent of agriculture. This is where this all sort of is produced from. And essentially it says, once upon a time, 4,000 to 8,000 years ago, after humanity invented agriculture, something very strange happened to human reproduction. Across the globe, for every 17 women who were reproducing, passing on genes that are still around today, only one man did the same. Okay, it wasn't like there was a mass death of males. They were there. So what were they doing? Asks Melissa Wilson Sayers, a computational biologist at Arizona State University, party school, and a member of a group of scientists who uncovered this moment in prehistory by analyzing modern genes. Another member of the research team, a biological anthropologist, hypothesizes that somehow only a few men accumulated lots of wealth and power, leaving nothing for others. Okay, this is the premise that Tate is using. He doesn't, like, if you asked him, where did you get this from? He wouldn't know. But this is where he picked it up from, because this is where I picked it up from, and he picks everything up from me. So these men could then pass on their wealth to their sons, perpetuating this pattern of elitist reproductive success. Then, as more thousands of years passed, the numbers of men reproducing compared to women rose again. Maybe more and more people started being successful, right? Wilson Sayers says, in a recent history, a global average of about 4 or 5 women reproduced for every one man. Okay, so that ended up balancing itself out. Now, you're never going to hear that from Andrew Tate. Let me put this back here. Get it? There we go. Now we're back to this one. Okay, so that's where that is. That's where that comes from. I'll be the first one to show you where that comes. I know where the bodies are buried. There's a body. Let me go dig it up for you. Okay. That's where he's pulling this from, but he's not pulling it from there because he would never be able to tell you where he got his stats from, because he's not a statistician. He's Andrew Tate. Okay. And he's not even the one that's doing the tweeting here. This is his PR team. This is whoever his handlers are when it comes to his Twitter profile. Okay. Women were always sharing kings and discarding the serfs. Until there were more serfs and then there were fewer kings. So if you ever read the book Alpha God by Dr. Hector Garcia, he points this out. This is not just a human thing. This is a primate thing. Throughout history, when I say high value, kings, shamans, tribal leaders, dynastic emperors of China, they all shared pretty much three factors in common. That was they all had resources, they all had territory, and they all had access to preferably virgin women, like harems. Okay, so you had, like, say, the emperors of Rome. They had their harems. In China, it was the Forbidden City, guarded by eunuchs. They literally would cut the dicks off of the guards to make sure that they weren't inseminating the chicks in the harem. Same thing happened with tribal chiefs in the Amazon rainforest. Same thing with Polynesian, Native American, you name it. If you're higher up on the status, you got access to more bitches, and you have access to. Now, granted, you got to protect those things, and you got to be able to protect your territory. You've got to be able to ensure your resources. Of course, territory and resources are sort of synonymous with each other. But those were the things that defined a powerful man over the course of history. The problem with that logic that Tate is talking about here is there's only a handful of those guys, a very small percentage of them. And then by order of degree, down until there's the serfs. Okay. Now, remember, you can talk about the 20 to 30% of guys who are, well, in this case, it's 1 for every 17, but then that balances itself out. I mean, it's skewed in favor of women, but remember, it's 4 to 5 per 1 now, and not 17 to 1 now. And remember, this is from a study I've been using since 2015. So there might be updated data since then. Okay. But essentially, he's not particularly wrong. It's just he's wrong on the data, or his team is wrong on the data. Okay. Beta settle with one and cope that it's what they want to do, when in reality they're forced due to lack of options, societal pressure, and the woman threatening to leave them. That is true. They are enraged that better men's women tolerate something their girl won't, and they see it's about the differences in girls, and then when it's actually the difference in the men. Women break rules for winners and make rules for losers. Really? Wait.
You're goddamn say right. My name.
Right there.
Say my name.
Really, guys? Really? Should I read that again? Let me read that again. Women break rules for winners and make rules for losers. That sounds an awful lot like women break rules for alphas and they make rules for betas. You just can't say alpha and you just can't say beta, because if you did, well, then you'd have to
say my name.
Yes. You guys can't even be original in your lifting of material. If your woman leaves you for having another girl, she simply thinks you're a bitch. Okay. That same woman happily shares a real man. That sounds an awful lot like Pook saying women will share a successful alpha rather than be saddled with a faithful beta. I wonder who has quoted Pook in the past. I wonder who even knows the name of Pook from the Soslov era. But let's continue. She did before she met you. Then you wifed her up. Ha ha. LOL. The one husband, one wife lie is a satanic. Now we're gonna bring Satan into. We're gonna bring Satan into all of this. Satanic control, purposed. Of course, maybe this is what triggered that Catholic priest. Purpose mechanism, a lie spread as a disease across Western culture to mitigate societal disruption from inferior, low-quality men who wouldn't be able to get a wife otherwise. Or you could eliminate the whole Satan thing and say, well, it's really a product of selective evolution. But that would be satanic. Okay. Why do we always? It must be the devil. That's what gets me is like whenever we they'll probably lift this line, but I'll give it to you anyways. Scientists and the scientific method, the scientific community is always shocked to come home early from work and find Mother Nature fucking the mailman. They're always shocked. I can't believe this. The same thing's true for believers and the religious set as well. Because if I say, well, no, it's not necessary. You don't need to bring religion into this. Oh, of course we do. Because the only reason we'd be talking about this is to find out what's good and what is evil, so we can fight the evil and then we can praise the good. Okay, it's a satanic control, just so you know. After pairing weak men with wives then they can't leave or they're destroyed in court, they psyop the women. It's fiendish psychological operation. The women with media to control this and subjugate the men. Well, yeah, but they've been doing that really since 1848 in Seneca Falls, Tate. Before you know it, they are walking around IKEA on a Sunday choosing curtains instead of taking their country back from invaders. There you go. Now we're back. Man, we are hitting all the bait. We've hit all the bases. We got Satan. We got the, let's see, with the Great Replacement. What else? They're engaging in swinging for wives' satisfaction instead of putting their enemies to the sword. Really. COVID was simply scared women barking at their compliant husbands. Women are easy to psyop. Society forces men to marry them so they can destroy masculine imperative resistance. Okay, this is like so flipping long. Essentially what this is and you got to love how it's like he's got like two blonde bits. I've never seen him with these blonde chicks before in my life, but these are the shots of him and his kids that he I'm assuming these are his kids. I don't know that they're his kids. But I know I think he has a son. I don't know. But the funny thing about all this is that nobody even knew that he had kids until he got arrested. But they opened up a can of worms here. And the can of worms is this, and I think this is the broader discussion that everybody wanted to jump into, is what's the difference between monogamy and poly, right? People would ask me and they would say, well, Rollo, what do you think is the natural state of human beings? Because people want to say monogamy. Like if you ask Matt Walsh, he's going to tell you the natural state of human beings, of men and women is monogamy. It's the bedrock of society and it's the cornerstone of Western civilization. And you're right. It is. It is absolutely monogamy is a natural state of human beings. So is polygamy. So is promiscuity. Absolutely, it is. Shall I show you why it is? I'll give you the long and the short of it here. Let's see if I can grab this out of my bookmarks here. Oh, we got to get to Mac and Murphy at some point too. I forgot about that. Oh, I know what it was. It was in some female nature. So it's in my female nature thing here. Here we go. Thank you, Rob Henderson. I think I'll just do a screen cap, or I'll show you the screen here. This is from a book, and the book is titled, what was the title of this? It's called Eve, How the Female Body Drove 200 Million Years of Human Evolution. It is a hardcover. It's been out since October of 2023. I thought this was an interesting take on promiscuity. Okay. So is promiscuity a natural state of human beings? Yes, that's also true. So is monogamy. So is promiscuity. And if you want to say polygyny, then you could say polygyny too. But let's show you why. Where's the screen? Let's see. Oh, is that it? Yeah, here we go. Okay. Can you guys see that? I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. Okay, this part right here from, there it is. Okay, Rob Henderson. This is actually a quote from the book. Promiscuity was a strategy. In all of our closest primate cousins, chimps, bonobos, even orangutans, promiscuity has a clear purpose for the female. She's not just getting her rocks off. She's making sure that no local male knows who the father is. So would promiscuity would that have been something in our evolutionary past that would have been advantageous to reproduction? And the answer is yes. That's evidence. That's evidence number one. Exhibit A. Put me back in. That's exhibit A. The other thing is this is biological. Now that's Evo Psych, Evo Bio. Essentially it's trying to understand why promiscuity would exist in the first place. Now here's the other thing. Let's go to Evo Bio. Okay, not Evo Psych, Evo Bio. Okay, we already know that this. We picked up on this, I think, back in 2018, 2017. One of the joys, one of the great things about figuring out plotting the human genome, and at least related science, anyways, is that we've discovered that. Remember the book Sperm Wars? We used to think there was different kinds of sperm. There was the runners and the fighters and the blockers and stuff like that. Completely false, because it's not the sperm that's the change. That's the variable. It's the egg that's the variable. And the reason why they couldn't figure that out is because they didn't know that the human ovum, female ovum, produces proteins that either slow or allow a sperm to reach the egg quicker. So essentially what the female ovum is doing is it is selecting between sperm that it wants to be impregnated by and doesn't, and there's no consciousness to this, by the way, but like there's a selective process that happens for let's just say a more compatible sperm rather than an incompatible sperm. And this is done through a series of proteins. So it looks like one sperm is swimming faster than the other because it's not inhibited by the proteins or whatever it is that the egg is giving off to slow down the sperm from one man and to increase the motility of the sperm from another man. So there's an evolutionary adaptation for female ovums that technically select for more compatible versus less compatible sperm. Okay. So what it's doing is it's taking two different sperm at the site of conception and deciding this is the one that I want to be more likely to inseminate this egg rather than to this inferior one, I guess, or this less compatible one. Let's just say, I don't want to say inferior because we're implied that's a judgment call. A more compatible versus a less compatible. Okay. That only happens if there are sperm at the site of conception by two different men. So with that in mind, is promiscuity natural for human beings? Yes, it is, because promiscuity had to have been, at least in some way, an evolutionary adaptation that was beneficial to even human females. You can say it's easy for guys because guys want to ejaculate and evacuate, right? That's simple. But why would it be an evolutionary advantage for females? Well, as I was saying, if you read that book, anyways, the female body, having the uncertainty whether or not that the child is yours means less of a likelihood of infanticide on the part of the more dominant alpha male, right? Especially in primates. So why would there be an adaptation, an evolutionary adaptation to select between competing sperm from two competing men if there was never going to be two in there in the same place, right? So that kind of confounds the whole monogamy thing. So the answer is both. They are both correct. Okay. Let me see. Anybody got something to say about that? Okay. So the thing is, though, is I'm of the, like, you can have all of the, see the problem with the whole Tate situation, or the whole, again, it's not even Tate, but with the whole sort of mythologizing all of this, or religiousizing this, or whatever it is it doesn't do anybody any favors in understanding it. Oh, we're going to fight the invaders and put them to the sword. You guys need to be men. Well, guess what, man? 80% of guys are still going to be beta chumps, no matter what you tell them that they're going to do, because it's just simply not in their DNA. Okay. There's going to be guys who are more motivated, and you motivate guys who are, like, less likely to want to go and put the invaders to the sword, right? Yeah, but you're talking. The thing is like, this is like not even 20th century like mythologizing. This is like 12th century 10th century mythologizing. And we live in a different time in a different society right now. And do I necessarily disagree with that? No, but I'm just saying, like stop hearkening back to this romanticized era and like start looking for 21st century solutions to this instead of these appeals to, you know, this romantic age that doesn't exist anymore. But that's not even half the problem. Then you're going to take that and you're going to combine that with reproduction. Because I'll run you up the flagpole for that. I'll tear you apart for that. Monogamy is a natural state of human beings. So is promiscuity or polygyny too, especially for powerful men. Remember, resources, territory, and access to a harem, preferably virgins, but not always. If you watch Vikings, if you know anything about my people, we didn't care if you're a virgin. we wanted to breed. It didn't matter if you were the town bicycle or you were just, fresh out of the church. It didn't mean anything to us. We just wanted to breed. That's what's funny is like different cultures like have different, like maybe it's just me, but like have different attitudes toward that kind of stuff. Remember, Viking cultures, or like I say Norse cultures, they would pass. This is well documented. They would pass around like a communal plate of water, and they'd spit in it, and they wash their faces in it. They wash their mouth out and spit it back in, and they'd pass it around the group. And people think, "Oh my God, that's insanity! It's gross." No, it would actually help in creating resistances for pathogens that were common amongst the tribe itself. So it actually had a purpose. It seems like really sick and gross, but it's actually has a point to it. Now that seems like really disgusting. And kind of is in modern parlance, but back then it was a ritual. They didn't even know why they did it, but it had the purpose of creating mutual resistance to pathogens. It helped your ability to fight off the disease, right? That was common to the whole tribe. Build up your tolerance to it, I guess, But again, remember, a lot of the stuff that we think of as myth actually had a very scientific, very empirical purpose to it. We just called it magic, right? Or it was just the way we do it. Here, your turn with the bowl. Yeah, pretty disgusting, right? But if it built up your immunities, then that's all that mattered. So anyways, I just wanted to point out that first off, you're lifting like, can I get a reach around at least for the, women make rules for beta or make rules for alpha, or betas and break rules for alpha? I think we know where that comes from. Anybody who reads that knows where that came from. But again, I'm not looking for credit here. I'm just like saying like, you're not helping. Like I understand what it is. It's meant to agitate, but it's like based on false premises and based on bad science, or I should say old science anyways. So even the stats that he's quoting there, which are inaccurate to begin with, even the stats that he's quoting there, he doesn't know the source that they come from. I do. But then what happens? Rollo has to pipe up. Rollo has to pop off, right? Rollo has to say shit about, well, here's where he's getting this from. And if I go and do that, then suddenly I'm against Tate and I'm for the invaders coming into that should be put to the sword, right? Because it's always a team sport. It's always binary logic.